Hey, it's Melissa Moore, and welcome to Melissa's Mile High Kitchen. We are here at Mountain High Appliance. This is their beautiful showroom in Littleton, and I'm so excited to be here. We're in this gorgeous kitchen. It's Gaga now. I was like, Gaga now? I mean, this is a big deal here, friends. They're letting me in here, and they have been doing Gaga now kitchens since the 1600s. How crazy is that? So that's why I'm in one of their beautiful kitchens. And if you haven't been to Mountain High Appliance showrooms before, you need to come in here because they have these fully functioning working kitchens, and that's where we are today. So we're in the Gaga Now kitchen, and we are going to do something near and dear to my heart. So we are going to be making blueberry almond muffins, and they're gluten-free, they're dairy-free, and yes, they taste great. Because I know a lot of people are like, gluten-free, but I'm telling you, these muffins are great. You can serve them to family and friends that don't even know that, they're gluten-free, and don't even tell them. You don't even have to tell them. But the nice thing is, I'm celiac, my daughter is celiac, and my daughter is also on the autism spectrum. And so part of her protocol for when she was little was changing her diet and getting her to go gluten-free and dairy-free. And back then, and this was about 17 years ago, it was so difficult to find everything. And today you can find it, but I have found that things are so expensive. And so one of the things I really wanted to do is help teach people how to bake and cook gluten-free and dairy-free at home, because it's going to save you money and it's also not that hard. I mean, I grew up baking in the kitchen with my mom, Indiana girl, turned Colorado girl. So I can bake, but I'm telling you, when you add in the gluten-free and the dairy-free and then hello high altitude, it gets a little tricky. So I've worked on these recipes at home, and hopefully I can make them easy for you guys. All right. So I'm going to have the recipe up. We'll have a link to that. It will be easy to find. But once again, these are blueberry almond, gluten-free and dairy-free muffins. Now I am going to use egg whites, and I want to let you know that's what these are right here, the egg whites. But I want to let you know, if you can't do eggs, what you can do are flax eggs. You know how to make the flax eggs. If not, I will put a link on my website to show you how to do those. Or there are other things you can do like aquafaba. Maybe you're familiar with that. That's another great substitute for eggs. But for this recipe, I am going to do egg whites. All right, you guys ready? All right, let's do it. Very excited here. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get our dry ingredients together. So there's the difference between the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients, and then we'll combine them all. And then we're also going to be folding in blueberries at the end. If you ever saw that show, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. Schitt's Creek? Okay, maybe I said it. Anyway, fold it in. So that's what we're going to be doing. If you're like, I still don't know what that means, I'm going to show you what that means. All right. So the first thing we want to do is get together our dry ingredients. So one of the things about gluten-free flour that a lot of people don't realize is gluten-free flour, to get the right consistency, is 3 or 4 different flours. And unlike wheat flour, where you open up the bag of wheat flour, you dump it in, and there you go, you have to have kind of a mixture of different flours in order to get the right texture. So for me, one of the brands that I love is Bob's Red Mill. And they make this Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 flour blend. So they've already put in all the flours for you. And then they also put in the binding agent. So with gluten-free baking, you've got to have either xanthan gum or guar gum in there to kind of give it that elasticity. And that's what you get from real flour. But in gluten-free flours, that's not naturally there. So that's what we're doing right now. So let's do the dry ingredients here first. All right, so we're starting with 2 cups of Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 flour. I've got that already in here. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do baking powder. I've got my handy dandy little notebook here. If you're like, what is she looking at? That's what I'm looking at. All right. So we're going to need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I've got the baking powder here. So here we go. You're just putting them right in the dry ingredients. Easy peasy. All right, the next thing we want to do, because we're putting our dry ingredients together, is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Let's find that little doodad. All right. Once again, this is an easy recipe, all right? Now we're going to just use a whisk and get the dry ingredients thoroughly mixed. All right, we're doing that. Now, before I forget, we're going to be using buttermilk. And if you're not familiar with buttermilk, you're like, I don't have it. First off, we're not using real milk. I'm using almond milk. So I've got a 1/2 cup of almond milk here. And what I'm going to do to make it into a buttermilk, you've got two choices. You can either do a half a teaspoon of vinegar or a half a teaspoon of fresh lemon. And what you're doing with the almond milk is then you're making it acidic. So when you combine this, which is going to be acidic, with the baking powder that's in your dry ingredients, that's going to be what kind of gives it that lift that you need with muffins. I mean, nobody wants just a flat muffin. So that's what we've got to do. All right, so I've got the half a cup of almond milk ready here. And here's what we're going to do. Carefully, and I'm not really graceful, but we are going to be pouring in, here, half, whoopsie. All right, see how I almost had too much? That's all right. Half a teaspoon of vinegar. These two things combined will make buttermilk. Once again, if you don't have vinegar or you don't like the smell, don't worry about it. It bakes out. You're not going to smell or taste vinegar in your muffins because that would be gross. So we're going to let it sit. That's how the acid level will kind of pick up. That's what we need from this. All right. First thing we're going to do, let's get going on the wet ingredients. So this butter's been sitting out. I probably left this out a little too long. Look at, you don't want it this soft. Okay. Let this be a lesson in what not to do. This butter is great. It's too soft. So you want to take your butter and have it out for about 30 minutes. This has probably been out over an hour. That's not what you want. All right, watch the magic here. Oh, the magic of video. I now have a better butter. All right, so this is vegan butter too. So this is a plant-based butter. There are different brands out there. So these are just brands that I know and I've used and I really like. So this is Country Crock. And Country Crock is pretty cool because they actually just rebranded and you would see it called plant butter. And now if you go to buy it, the new packaging, I believe, says dairy-free butter. So it's interesting as people are trying to go more dairy-free, they're like, oh, well, instead of calling it plant, let's make it really easy for people. All right, so you have 1 stick of butter. That is a half a cup of butter. And once again, I'm saying butter. But remember, when I say butter, I'm talking about dairy-free butter. So if you're wondering, like, Melissa, that's not butter. It's dairy-free butter, all right? The other thing I always have in my kitchen, I have to have paper towels or like a bunch of other towels. I don't know about you. And then I have a little hidden trash can back here, but that's how it works for me. All right, so we've got the half a cup of butter, 1 stick in here already. Now what you want to do, 1 1/4 cups of sugar right here. So you want to slowly add it into the butter. Now, when my daughter was little, I would have her help me and I would give her the cup of sugar and she'd be like, okay, got it, mom. Boonk, and she'd dunk it in. I'm like, no, like slowly. So with a lot of recipes that they consider quick breads, sometimes muffins, what you will find is they always talk about just stirring it. But this recipe, you actually want to cream together the butter, the sugar, the egg whites, and the almond extract. All right, that's kind of key. So that's why we're using my KitchenAid mixer here. All right, locked into place the bowl. Once again, getting that butter going. All right. You can hear it going. Now we're slowly adding in the sugar. Once again, this is 1/4 cup plus 1. So 1 1/4 cups of sugar right here. Not any more than that. That is going to be plenty for your muffins. And you want to have it, I've got it on like a 2 speed, but you can go a little faster. All right, so you see I'm still pouring in the sugar. So the butter, what you don't want is if I had put that melted stick in here, it would been way too soupy. And the thing with gluten-free is you don't want the soupiness. That's not good. All right, so we've got our butter in here. And then we've also got 1 1/4 cups of white sugar. You can do cane sugar if you want, but I don't recommend the brown sugar. It's going to give you a different flavor just because of the molasses in it. All right, the next thing we need is the egg whites I was talking about. So this is 1/3 cup of egg whites. And what that is instead of 2 whole eggs, it's 2 egg whites. So if you want whole eggs, absolutely you can use them. You can just substitute that out for 2 egg whites. All right, so we're gonna add that in next. Dun, dun, dun. I feel like I need to have like a cocktail or music going. That's usually what's on in my kitchen. But that would be kind of annoying. Plus I'm usually, oh, look at that. Okay, so that's looking gorgeous right now. So we've got the egg whites in here. Looks gorgeous. We've got the butter, the sugar, the egg whites all mixed in. Now comes the magic of these muffins. So you will notice that a lot of people, when they are doing blueberry muffins, they always put lemon, and I love lemon. But I was like, I want something different. That's what these muffins are. They're a little different. So it is a half a teaspoon of almond extract, and it is going to go right in there. And once again, these are your wet ingredients. There we go. It's looking awesome. The eggs look good. All right, you can smell the almond too. This is where I wish we had like smell-o-vision, because the almond smells so good. And this is what makes them different. All right, so as you can tell, this is kind of the consistency we're talking about here. So we've got our dry ingredients all together. That was the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. That is in here. Now here's where we're gonna get, it's just a little bit different, because instead of just slowly adding in the flour, we're gonna add in some flour, then put in a little buttermilk, then add in the flour, little buttermilk, and kind of alternate between the two of them. Then when it's done, we will fold, and I'll show you how to do that with the blueberries. We're gonna fold it in. All right, let's start adding in our flour, lock it down in place again. Now on this, because it is flour, I've got it on stir in the mixer, because the last thing you wanna do is have it beat up too much. You don't want it. So once again, this flour mixture is everything in here. We whisk it together. I also want to note, I should note this too, because we are in Denver or outside of Denver, and we are high altitude. I did add, so I told you it was a half a cup of almond milk, and it is, but I also added 2 tablespoons to that. So it's technically half a cup plus 2 tablespoons. And I did the extra 2 tablespoons because in Denver, it is so dry. And then not having the whole egg, the recipe tends to be a little drier. So I found that just 2 extra tablespoons of that almond milk, and that was already in here, that really does help. All right, so we did that. I'm talking and I forgot to do what I was told you I was got to do, and that is start slowly adding in the buttermilk. All right, if you're somebody that likes to wear an apron, this is where it could splash up on you, so no judgment if that's what you need. All right, we're gonna go back, a little bit of flour. And we're gonna go with the rest of the buttermilk. And then, all right, so flour is done. Everything is in here. Looks fantastic. I'm gonna pull it up so you can kind of see that this is what you're looking for right here. You really want that kind of a consistency. It's not as thick as peanut butter, but you can see what I'm talking about here. All right, that is what we're looking for. Now, the other thing I get asked a lot by my girlfriends is about, so this is just a KitchenAid mixer I've had for like 20 years now, if not longer. And I bought this little doodad here. It is, let me show it to you. It is half mixer and half rubber scraper. How cool is that? I bought it on Amazon. It was not that expensive. And the great thing is it does kind of part of the job for you. So it's mixing and scraping, and I'm just saying, it really is nice. All right, next thing, let's get this bowl off. There's a little bit of flour here that just kind of fell off the top. No big deal, but I'm gonna fold it in. All right, so let's go over folded in. I didn't realize that folded in was this big a deal until I saw Catherine O'Hara trying to explain it on the TV show. But what it is you're flipping. So you think of it doing like this, like stirring is like this, right? And if you stir the blueberries like this, you're gonna be like tons of purple all over the place. But we're flipping it. So think of almost like how your dryer does it. So this is what you're doing. And we're gonna do that with the blueberries. So this, by the way, if you're wondering, 1.5 cups of fresh blueberries. I have never used frozen blueberries. I think they have a lot of extra moisture, so I don't know how those would go in a recipe. I know I've been asked about that, and I love wild blueberries, but I don't know how that would work if they're frozen and then they have all the extra juice. So I can't tell you that. So here's what I'm doing. I'm taking the rubber scraper and I'm going along the bottom of the pan and then flipping it. Like, all right, so that's what we're doing here. All right, and then just kind of look. Oh, I just broke a blueberry. Daggone it. There we go. Well, I was folding it. I fault the blueberry, not me on this one. Okay, so I have now turned this recipe over several times. And you're wanting to just make sure as you look down at the recipe, you're like, okay, that looks right. That looks good. You know, when you do your muffins in the muffin tin, you want to make sure that you've got blueberries in every muffin. Blueberry muffins without blueberries, I mean, I don't know what that, there's not even a muffin word for that. Nobody wants that. No. All right. So here's the deal. Any kind of these little wrappers that you can find, get these. Here's one thing I hate. I hate cleaning muffin tins. I think it's awful. So I do these papers all the time. And it's funny because I grew up in a house where my mom made muffins a lot and she didn't use the muffin tins or the little papers. And I had to scrub out all the stuff. And once it bakes in there, that's just not fun, friends. So that's where I'm like, hey, let's use these little papers. All right, so we have those. This is then the secret ingredient, and I saved this for last. I feel like I should be like, voila, there it is. So here's what it is. It is 2 tablespoons of white sugar and half a teaspoon, I believe is right, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I put it in here. If you were a kid and you ever did cinnamon sugar toast, that's what this is, okay? So this is gonna go on top of the muffins, and that's what makes them different. So instead of a blueberry lemon muffin that I think a lot of us have had, and they're delicious, this is a blueberry almond muffin. And then it has almost this topping that you will have on a snickerdoodle. So it's got this snickerdoodle topping on top of this muffin. I'm telling you, these are incredible. And the people in your life that are like, I don't know if I really like gluten-free, don't tell them. Poo poo, don't tell them. All right, so I've got to find my spoons. Where did I put them? Oh, there they are. All the way over there. I was like, where did I put those spoons? Magic again. All right, so here we go with our magic spoons. All right, there is, in my opinion, no way to get this to here without it being somewhat messy. So I'm going to try and clear a few things over here. Secret ingredient, don't forget about that. And just let you kind of see what I'm talking about. So once again, you want to get these into the muffin tin. If you cannot break the blueberries, that's even better. Sometimes it just happens. So you will see people are like, fill in 2/3. I'm a big fan of more is more. So I like to fill them up. I don't want them going all over the place, but I actually really like the muffins to be big. Like, once again, nobody wants a blueberry muffin without blueberries, and nobody wants the smallest muffin. I don't care if you're 50 or 10. If you've got the choice between a big muffin and a small one, you and I both know we are going to take the big muffin. All right, so we're just scooping it in here. Like I said, if you're like, Melissa, there's an easier way to do that, you could send me a note and tell me. You can do it yourself, whatever. This is just how I have done it forever. I've tried ice cream scoops for this stuff. I've tried a lot of stuff. The other thing I will tell you is that gluten-free baking tends to be a little sticky. So you will find where other things sometimes just kind of fall right off the spoon, gluten-free is a little bit stickier. All right, so we are going to fill these up. All right, other thing I forgot to tell you that I did is I've got my oven preheated to 425, but I am not cooking these at 425. So what's going to happen is as soon as I put these muffins in, and they're going in for 28 minutes on 375, is we will be kicking that temperature down. And the whole reason for this is, first off, all right, so I'm going back through right now, putting more muffin stuff in here, more batter in the muffins. But here's the thing, because I was trying to figure out, okay, why does it work so well? Well, when you start your oven at a higher temperature, you're kind of getting, that's how you're going to get the crisp edges of the muffins. You know how you've gone to a bakery and you're like, the sugar on top just caramelized. It's got a crisp edge, but the inside is really moist and it's just delicious. That's what we're doing here. So by preheating the oven to 425, it's going to start out there. When we put them in for our 28 minutes, we kick it down to 375. And that's another part of the magic. All right, I should have just called these magic muffins. All right, so here I am. I go back through. And once again, there are some people that get this right on the first time. I'm not that baker. No. I go back through and I say, which one looks like it got, got left out, didn't get enough blueberry love. We're going to get it. Now, the one thing I will say is you don't want to go too crazy on not leaving any room, just because the fact that you've got to leave room for the cinnamon sugar topping on these. All right. Muffins are done. There is enough, by the way, to probably make about another 5 or 6. We'll get to that a little bit later. But here's what we're going to do now. So cinnamon sugar topping. You can just go like this. I know. You're like, that's a lot. Well, that's because it's delicious. I would not. Okay. And then what this does is this will just cook up in them. I mean, you've done this before or you've seen it done. The difference is what we're putting these in with. I had my daughter help me a few weeks ago making these. Now she is 20 now. And I'm like, okay, put some of that on. Honest to God, she put, I think this amount covered like 6 muffins. I was like, Alex, that's a lot of sugar, sweetie. And seriously, every time somebody got a muffin and they had to take it out of the wrapper, it was like sugar all over the kitchen floor. So you don't need that much, but you do need some. Okay, so that's what you're looking at there. All right, gorgeous muffins. Let's get that off. Here's one of the, like I told you, I hate cleaning muffin tins. So if I can, I'm like, get it off the muffin tin. Everything else, easy peasy. All right, so we're gonna put these in our oven now. I'm gonna go over here and put it in the oven. All right, I'm turning the oven down to that 375. This is a fancy oven. All right. All right, there we go. So muffins are in now, 28 minutes. You might want to check them because I know sometimes people are like, those are a little dry. Just check them. Between 25 and 30 minutes is kind of ideal. Blueberry almond muffins in there now with the snickerdoodle topping. All right, 28 minutes, done. Let's pull them out. Okay, look at that. All right. I gotta tell you, I am loving this Gaggenau kitchen here. All right, so blueberry, almond, gluten-free, dairy-free muffins are done. They smell amazing. Someday we're gonna get TV and videos where you can smell. All right, they were seriously hot. I just pulled them out. This is not like magic TV muffins. These are actually really hot. All right, we're gonna put them on this little plate here because this seriously is hot. I want you to see these. Do you see the steam coming out? Look at that muffin, you guys. Tell me that does not look amazing. All right, look at that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I think I can bake. Remember the Disney film Ratatouille where he's like, everybody can cook. That's it. I'm telling you, you have enough the right ingredients, you get the hang of it, you can bake, and you can bake gluten-free, dairy-free here in Denver in the Mile High City. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Melissa's Mile High Kitchen. I'm so glad you're here. All right, I gotta take a bite now. Oh my God. Seriously, these are so good.